Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. We begin our video with an absolute perfect story of petty revenge against the neighbors who threw noisy parties and kept our OP's sick child awake. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. No more parties. I live in a hillside community. There's a canyon that runs up the middle. My house is on a hill on the right side with lots of other houses of the main street. More houses on the left side of the canyon street. But to get from my house to any house on that side requires going down the hill on one side, up on the other side. Plus the streets are very winding and bizarre, following random topography rather than a typical grid pattern. One issue with hillside homes: noise. Parties in one part of the neighborhood may be impossible to hear 3 houses away from the party if they're on the same street, but the sounds can travel easily across the canyon and blast the homes on the opposite ridge, which is what happened to us. Some random house across from us was throwing parties 3 times a week, going well past midnight, and they were loud, but I could never figure out which house it was. This was complicated by the fact that the sound bounces around the hills, so depending on where you're standing, it could sound like it was west of you, or east of you, or north of you. I was never able to find this particular party house until one evening they added a DJ with a light show. Suddenly, I was able to pinpoint it, and it was directly across the canyon from us. What made it worse was it was a Halloween night that happened to fall on a Saturday. This was a few years ago. And our toddler son had a fever, and this party was keeping him up, and it was now 3 a.m. I was pissed. These effers didn't give a damn that they were blasting music in the middle of a densely packed neighborhood of homes, not a cabaret district. But I didn't know how to get to the house. I ended up getting dressed, throwing on flip-flops, mistake, and driving down the canyon to the street I thought led up to them. Turns out the street was a dead end. But there was a dirt path that led up in the general direction of the house above us. So yes, I parked my car and walked up a dirt trail in the middle of the night in flip-flops, which only made me angrier by the time I found the house. When I walked in, I realized there was almost no furniture in the house, so I went to the DJ and asked where the owner was. Dude just shrugged. The house was empty, and the owner was renting it out for parties. I made it clear to the DJ that by the time I got back to my house, the cops would be busting the party. He didn't seem to believe me, but I kept my word, and sure enough, the police shut it all down within 20 minutes of my calling them. So where's the revenge? Well, usually I ignored loud parties if they ended by midnight. Maybe 1 a.m. I'd deal with it, especially on weekends. But not this house. From then on, every time they had a party, I'd wait until 11:01 when the noise ordinances kicked in, and I'd call the cops. The parties would be shut down by 11:20, and these people were paying to rent the space, remember? I shut down the parties so often that either the owner got the message or the renter started realizing how early the parties were going to end. Within a couple of weeks, all the parties had stopped. It's been years, and I've never had to go back. I assume someone lives there now, but the parties are firmly in the past. And our second story. I'm not disabled enough, according to Karen. I've mentioned to my therapist a few times how I struggle with what people might think of me. And this has actually been a fear of mine, being told I need to prove just how disabled I am because I don't look disabled enough. I always thought it was an unrealistic fear, so of course it had to happen. I was at a theme park yesterday with friends. Since you read the title, I'm sure you can imagine, we looked into some sort of special access pass. I have a rather odd leg condition. It has a name, but I'm not sure what it's called in English, but it's sort of an infection in the ankle bone, and it's caused permanent damage. Needless to say, getting in rides and such takes me a little longer. Standing in line all day was something I'd like to avoid, and hey, the theme park's accommodating. They offer a special pass. Mind you, this isn't a fast pass or anything. It just puts you in a separate line where there's room for wheelchairs and seats for people like me. Overall, the waiting time was pretty much the same, but they help a lot with getting you into the ride if you're in this line. To get the pass, you didn't need to show anything proving your disability, but it did say you could be subject to being asked to prove it. Fair enough. I wear special shoes. One is basically a knee-high boot, and it stands out, which most of the employees saw. They checked my pass and everything was fine. I did have the diagnosis from my doctor screenshot just in case they would ask. The employees didn't. But Karen is a whole other story. I'm standing in line with my companions when someone comes walking up behind us. There were a few people in front of us too. I heard the woman make a noise of disappointment at how long the line was. The woman lit up a cigarette. A bit rude to do in line, and my friend has asthma, so he asked her to move back a little. That's where the problem started. Karen makes a noise I can only describe as the call of a Karen. She did move back, but screeched something about how we had to make sure that the employee would know she was there and that no one cut in line. Not an unreasonable request, honestly, but it could have been said in a kinder manner. The employee comes out and checks everyone's pass. They do this because the pass has a mention of whether the visitor will need extra help getting in or not. The employee asked our group who has the pass, so I showed him. Everything's fine. They asked Karen too, and she showed hers. She's finished her cigarette and joins the line again, this time asking, "So what's your disability?" I tell her it's something to do with my leg, and I point at my shoes. She seemed displeased by it, saying, "That's not a disability. I'm asking if you're disabled." I'm a little thrown off. I'm willing to share it, but it's also something private, and it doesn't concern her. I tell her I have an ankle condition and turn around to stop talking to her. Something to note here, she did have her child with her, though by all appearance there was nothing visibly disabled about them. Not my proudest moment, but the thought of her faking a disability did cross my mind, but I didn't speak on it. The Karen kept talking to me, though. All the usual stuff, to stop ignoring her, that I should respect my elders, blah, blah, blah. Other people are starting to notice, and we're drawing a bit of attention here. One of my friends, a bit comfortable with confrontation and knowing I'm not, said, "It's none of your business. You wouldn't like it if we asked what you or your daughter's disability is either," to which she responded, "My child is autistic, and she's actually disabled." The employee comes out again, letting people in, and when they reach us, she tells them, "This boy isn't disabled at all. Remove him from the line, please." I'm 28 years old, by the way, hardly a boy. The employee looks at us, then back at Karen and says, "Well, they have the facility pass, and we checked those, so..." He gets cut off, and she starts talking about how her daughter is autistic, and I'm clearly not. I responded and said something like, "Yeah, I'm not autistic, but I do have a disability. These shoes aren't exactly a fashion choice." The employee definitely didn't want to be a part of this and told the woman to leave us be. He let in a few people, my group included, but not the Karen. In the hallway to the right, he said, "Wow, what was that about?" Something I haven't mentioned up till now. I'm pretty much blind. The reason I say this is because I don't look blind, or so I've been told at least. Because of this, it sadly isn't the first time someone has questioned just how disabled I am. I told the employee it happens sometimes, sadly. I thanked the employee for their help and enjoyed the ride. But man, F that Karen. WTF, not all disabilities are visible to anyone else. This woman acted like she doesn't really know the definition of disability other than autism. And our last story. My entitled mother wants to force a real estate deal on me. My mother has always had entitled tendencies. She currently owns a condo, and my older sister, several states away, has bought a new home and offered to let my mother live with them. The last few times my mother tried cohabitating with my older sister for longer than a month, she and my sister got into a big fight, and my mother makes a big show of leaving and driving the 12-hour drive back in purposeful, dangerous conditions to prove her point. Broken glasses, bad brakes, no sleep, to name a few. My mom has had this condo for 13 years on a 20-year mortgage. She wants me to break my lease, move into her condo, while she goes to live with my sister. I pay 90% of what she's paying, and she covers the rest. If I live there for 7 years, she'll give me the deed. Sounds great, right? Wrong. The neighborhood the condo's in is terrible. The condo's almost 50 years old and is not well kept. There's a homeowners association. It's further away from my job on a much busier highway. Oh, and also, there's a high chance my mother and sister will fight, and she'll storm back, and I'll either need to scramble for a quick apartment after breaking a lease, good luck, or worse, cohabit with her. I've already called my older sister and told her why I don't want the condo. She gets it and doesn't want me pressured to take this deal. My mother is also Asian, if that helps paint the picture. I'm going to tell her no this Thanksgiving. but I know she'll try hard to guilt and pressure me to say yes. I think she underestimates how much I hate her condo. Edit. I'll explain some things. The Homeowners Association fee is $230 monthly. There would be no lawyers or official contract drafted. She wants to do this with no paperwork involved. The unit next door was recently sold and bought with only 8 days of being on the market and sold well above market value. I will still be paying $900 approximately a month toward her mortgage and HOA fees. The unit next door, the one that sold in 8 days, had a fire about 10 years ago and there was water and smoke damage to her own unit that her homeowner insurance repaired, but to a level I would be satisfied with. Also, the floor plan of the unit is atrocious. It's a 2-floor unit with a narrow stairwell in the middle, a master bedroom with a carpeted sink area separate from the bathroom, water-damaged sink area, a 40-year-old stove and oven. There's an HOA, but other than a narrow pool, there is no common areas or lawns. Update. My father, they've been divorced for decades, visited my entitled mother today, and after a long talk, she finally understands I don't want her place, and she will not try to pressure me to take it. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.